All right, welcome back to the Hometown Sports Huddle, everybody. I'm Dave Walsh. Martinsville Speedway hosting the spring NASCAR weekend with the Cup Series race, the Cookout 400, coming up this Sunday afternoon. One of the drivers I've been looking forward to talking to is Ty Dillon. He's the driver of the number 10 car for Kaulig Racing. First of all, Ty, thanks so much for joining me here on Zoom because I've been excited to talk to you. You know, this year's second full-time year with Kaulig Racing, and I feel like you've been starting to build something here. You know, you had the top 10 start last year at the Daytona 500. But before you joined Kaulig, you know, you've had some one-offs with some teams here or there for a couple of years. It's been a while since you've had a multi-year full-time run with the team. What's it been like with this Kaulig team? Because I really feel like you're starting to build something here.
It's my first time running with a team for a second year in about 6 years. So that's huge for me. That's huge for my career. Means a lot to be back with Kaulig Racing. And I think the beginning of this year showed that. You know, we started the year with 3 straight top 16 finishes. And then we were pretty much heading in that direction last weekend in Phoenix and got caught up in someone else's mess on the last restart. So, you know, it's been really nice to have the continuity of working with the same nucleus of folks in the Cup Series side of Kaulig Racing. I think that speaks a lot to what we grew in last year. Like if you look at last year, our point standing wasn't really what we would want it, but we had such highs and lows throughout the season. We can build off the highs. Like the in-season tournament proved to all of us at Kaulig Racing that we're a team that can compete with the top caliber people, and also just gave us all confidence in ourselves and knowing, okay, we're going to have a reset going into another year together. Let's build off of that. I think that's what's made us start so strong this year.
You talk about competing, and Chris Rice, who's Kaulig Racing's president, is actually from this region over in the Halifax County, South Boston area. And I interviewed him about a year ago, and he admitted at the time that, you know, maybe the engines weren't exactly where Kaulig wanted them to be, but everything was starting to come together a little bit. And it's clear on the track that, yeah, it is starting to come together. You guys are being more competitive in a lot of these races. How do you see things coming together here now in year 2 of Kaulig?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's you know, a testament to everybody at our cup shop. I think there's been a lot of things going on that's easy to get distracted by, but it's good things for Kaulig Racing. It's growth and the truck series and everything that's going on. There's been a lot of moving parts, but like I said, the core group of guys, Mike Cook, Andrew Dickinson, Trent Owens, AJ, myself, everybody in that cup shop have really just focused on what are we going to do to get better from last year, no matter what's going on around us. And we've taken that and just really focused in and kept that the simple goal. And we've all started the year out very strong.
Talking with Ty Dillon, driver of the number 10 car for Kaulig in the Cup Series. But, you know, you did just mention the Truck Series, and I was going to bring it up, but, you know, a couple of weeks ago, closer to the start of the season, we got to see you in that Kaulig truck out at Atlanta. Had a good time out on that, and you've gotten some wins in the Truck Series in your past. Are we going to see you in that Truck Series race again, driving for Kaulig?
Yeah, you never know. You never say no, or you never know what's going to happen throughout a year. It was a lot of fun being in that truck in Atlanta. So close to a top 10, and I think a couple more things go our way throughout the race. I think we had a penalty really close to the end that I had to drive up through the field, and would have loved to bring them home a top 10. But, you know, that program's a lot of fun. It's growing. It's going to, you know, have a year of development there, and the young guys that are in the trucks are fun to be around. Definitely Minnie and Butterbean. They're great young guys to be around, and Daniel Dye and Justin Haley are kind of the experienced guys in that group. And it's a cool program. It's a very exciting for the race team. And yeah, I had a lot of fun there at Atlanta.
You know, Ty, we've been talking a little bit about so far your performance on the big tracks like Atlanta and Daytona, but now we get to that short track stretch here through Virginia and the Carolinas. You know, just came out of Darlington. I got Martinsville this weekend. Bristol's not too far away. As a driver, when you know you're switching from the super speedways to now the short tracks where you really have to grind it out, how do you prepare mentally? Is it something you kind of look forward to?
Yeah, I love it. I look forward to the short track stuff, especially now with the more horsepower. I'm very excited after leaving Phoenix. Felt like we were a really good car, especially on the long run. And with more horsepower, you're going to take care of your equipment, take care of your tires a little bit. And Martinsville race has gotten better and better each time we go back there with the next gen car. So I look forward to this short track stretch. That's a good thing for me. And even Darlington's my favorite racetrack. And so this stretch coming up after Vegas is going to be a great one. And we just want to keep riding the momentum.
Now, you just mentioned the next-gen car and the improvements we've been seeing on the short-track package. We all remember the speed bumps that this next-gen car had in Martinsville in the early years where it was just flat-out impossible to pass on this thing. How have you seen the short-track package get better to make Martinsville and tracks like it more exciting?
I think we're getting there. I think the great thing is NASCAR and the drivers of Goodyear are all working together to improve the product on the short tracks, and it's getting better. I think the Phoenix race is the best one that we've seen in a few years as far as passing and movement in the top five and being able to come through the field if you need to, if you have a good car and you put everything together. So we're all working towards a common goal to make that level of racing better. It's already been pretty good, but we want to see the best racing week in and week out, every racetrack that we go to. So we're all excited to get to Bristol and Darlington and Martinsville and see how the product shakes out there now with the more horsepower. I think it's going to be quite a cool challenge.
It definitely will, and we look forward to seeing you out there. Last question I had, and it's because you mentioned some names earlier on, like Butterbean Queen and Daniel Dye and people like that. There's a generation coming up through the short track ranks, through the smaller series who are coming up. As someone who is helping to build up colleague, you're a voice who has been on the track for quite some time. I don't know how much free time you even get, or are you able to keep up with a lot of these younger drivers and watch that kind of next generation build up here into maybe the Cup Series in the next couple of years?
Yeah, I do. I try to keep an eye on it, just seeing who the next guys are and seeing how they handle themselves. And I think for me, it's not always about who's out there winning every single race or dominating, but how do they handle themselves during that or when things go bad. I like keeping up with that. I think one of the coolest things that I've learned about Butterbean and Minnie, they're both super talented, but they're both humble and they're wanting to work hard. They know they have a long way to go in their career, and they have great perspective on where they're at in their career and where they want to be. So those guys are going to be stars in the future for us, and I'm looking forward to watching them all the way through their career.
And we look forward to seeing more of you on the track this weekend down in Martinsville Speedway. All right, Ty Dillon, driver of the number 10 for Colleague Racing. We'll see you this weekend at the Paperclip. All right, tomorrow we have John Hunter Nemechek, who's going to be talking about tire management and also the growth of Legacy Motor Club. We'll have that tomorrow here on the Huddle. But we got more when we come right back. All right, we welcome you back into the Hometown Sports Huddle here on WDBJ 7 Plus. I'm Dave Walls. I apologize for the late start. Everybody had some technical difficulties here in the studio, but certainly wanted to make sure I got you that interview with Ty Dillon. As I mentioned, we're going to be having more interviews. In fact, coming up tomorrow, again, as we mentioned, going to be talking to John Hunter Nemechek of the of Legacy Motor Club, driver the 42, and had a very interesting conversation with him about what he looks for in a track, how this Legacy team is working through things. Everybody in that garage is certainly not happy with the level of results they've been having, but also he feels like the level of results they've been getting is not indicative of the work they've been putting in. In fact, more than anything, he feels like they've been getting caught in a lot of other people's messes. And also talk to him about an interesting strategy that he has on the short tracks. Darlington is one of his favorites. He had a top 5 finish there last year, and he says he's really looking forward to Martinsville. So it's a very interesting conversation. You'll want to stick with that as we come up on the Thursday show. All right, a couple of news items here did want to talk about while the rest of the crew is off tonight. Major League Baseball opening night tonight. The New York Yankees are over at the San Francisco Giants at 8 o'clock, but it's a Netflix game. That's right, Netflix is dipping their toe into MLB. Makes perfect sense since they had some NFL games last year. Of course, if you're a WWE fan, you're glued there every Monday night for Raw, but Netflix is going to have 3 games this year. The one, of course, tonight out in San Francisco. They're also going to be doing the MLB Home Run Derby. That'll be in Philadelphia this year. And then when they go to the Field of Dreams out in Dyersville, Iowa. I think it's the Phillies and the Twins. That'll be an interesting one in August as Netflix is going to continues to dip their toe into the live sports avenue. Elsewhere, we also have to talk about the UVA women. They are off to the Sweet 16 out in Sacramento. Good send-off today out in Charlottesville today for Coach Amaka Gugua Hamilton and her ladies. Again, if you watch WDBJ News at 6 o'clock, we talked a little bit about, let's be honest, a week ago, we thought we were talking about the UVA men probably in the Sweet 16, but no, it's the women who are the first 4 team to go to the Sweet 16. And, Coach Hamilton earlier this week was just talking about the resiliency her team showed, where everybody else saw a lot of the shortcomings, a lot of the missed opportunities, games against Virginia Tech that maybe they had a chance at, they let slip away and things like that, and other losses that maybe came down to the final minutes. This team just has not given up yet. And Kimora Johnson is the first, what was the stat I read today? The first Virginia player to put up multiple 25-point games in an NCAA tournament, which is amazing when you think about the caliber of players that UVA's women have had in their program in their history. So a tremendous effort from her. And again, they will take on the 3rd-seeded TCU Saturday night out in San Francisco. Finally, also did want to talk about, we haven't even gotten a chance to talk about this today, is the NFL will open their season up in Melbourne, Australia. That's right. The San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams will be down under as to kick off the season. I didn't see the start time listed on that one. I would assume they would try to keep it maybe at least agreeable to a West Coast audience. So I'm not sure how late in the evening or early in the morning. All I know that game might be ticked off. The 3rd straight international opener. I do remember the Brazil one because I'm an Eagles fan. And I guess my biggest concern for these international games, they've kind of gotten it down to a science for when you go to England, if they're at Wembley or another stadium like that. Pretty much anywhere in Europe, that has maybe been an NFL Europe back when that was a thing. They know how to take care of the grass, but certainly when you go into a venue that isn't used to the wear and tear that an NFL team can put on it, that's a little bit of a struggle for me because Brazil, I remember, was like a skating rink. In fact, the year, again, with the Eagles it was the Green Bay Packers. Was that 2 years ago or 3? I honestly can't remember. I'm not going to lie to you. But I remember Jordan Love got injured in that one because the grass was just a slip and slide. In fact, it was 2 years ago because it was Saquon Barkley's first year in Philly. They went to win the Super Bowl. Wasn't bragging, but just how I remember things. However, I just remember everybody complaining about how slick the grass was, and then in spots it was clumping up. I remember Jordan Love went down and he missed probably close to a month because he tweaked something in that one. And Malik Willis, who's now, of course, the former Liberty guy, and he's now the starter for the Miami Dolphins. He came in late in the game and tried to get off the pass there. But again, nobody could get footing in that stadium. Now, I know the stadium that they're going to be playing this one down in Melbourne is a cricket field. And I have a little bit of higher hopes for this one. If you've never seen cricket, think of it like international baseball. Big circle, they got the wickets in the middle, and that's kind of like your home plate. It's actually a lot of fun once you get into it. Trust me, there's been a lot of Saturday mornings where I'm waking up and I flip on, a streaming channel somewhere and I'll see a cricket test match, and yeah, I get into it. Especially when you get to the Cricket World Cup, they play at such an elite level. It's really a lot of fun to watch. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is a cricket field where players are running with cleats, they're diving for balls. I do have a little bit more hope and optimism because, frankly, I didn't know what that field in Brazil was being used for. If it speaking off the top of my head, was it a leftover stadium from the World Cup in Brazil a couple of years ago? I don't know, but the point is, I don't think that field went through the rigors playing a physical sport every day that maybe a cricket one would. Not saying that's even on the level of an NFL, but certainly they're used to more hard playing, and people in cleats running around back and forth. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But again, it should be the Rams and the 49ers going down in probably late August for the season opener. All right, we'll do it here for the Hometown Sports Huddle today. Again, reminder, John Hunter Nemechek joins us on Thursday. In fact, we'll have a little bit of a tease later in the week on Saturday. Of course, it's Martinsville Speedway Race Week. I'm going to be talking to many more drivers on Saturday. In fact, watch WDBJ 7 at 6 o'clock and also during Saturday Sports Extra at 11. I'll have a one-on-one interview with Joey Logano and also with Ryan Blaney, two Team Penske drivers who would love to add another grandfather clock to their garage or to a home. One of the questions I asked John Hunter, I'm going to give you a preview on that now. I just asked him, where do you put multiple grandfather clocks? Because he has one there from the Truck Series, and I think he said he has one more, and I know there's others. He said, yeah, we just keep them all at work at the garage, and I tell you what, every top of the hour, it does get a little bit loud, and I would imagine it does when those clocks start ringing. But hey, always room for one more grandfather clock. So again, watch for that on Saturday. Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney one-on-one will be talking about their thoughts on Martinsville Speedway and where their seasons are so far this year. All right, that's going to do it for the Hometown Sports Huddle, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. And again, apologize for the late delay, but thanks for sticking with me, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.